In this video, we're going to use synthetic division to find the quotient and remainder, if there is one other than 0, of 5x to the 4 minus 17x to the 3 minus 18x squared plus 19x plus 20, all divided by x minus 4. So the first step in using synthetic division is to figure out what your 0 is. So figure out the thing that you're going to be dividing by. So of course our factor that we're dividing by is x minus 4. But really what you want to do is you want to either memorize we're going to switch the sign on that number, or you could think of it as translating that factor into a 0 by setting it equal to 0. So x minus 4 equals 0 is going to give us x is equal to 4 when we add 4 to both sides. And so when we set up the synthetic division problem and we have our box right here, the 4 is going to go in that box because that's going to be the 0 that corresponds with the factor, the thing that we're dividing by. So now what we need to do is we need to be sure that we have all powers of x present from our highest down to 1 or 0 really. So we have x to the 4, x to the 3, x to the 2, x to the 1, and then x to the 0, or just the constant term, whichever way you want to think of it. So everything is present, so we don't need to add in any 0 placeholders. So now we're good to go. So what we're going to do is we're going to peel off the coefficients of each of these terms. So we're going to take the 5 right here, and you want to be sure this is in descending order like it is, the 4th power first, and then the 3rd power coefficient, which is negative 17. We'll write that next, going from left to right. We're going to write the x squared power next, so minus 18 or negative 18. And then the linear term, positive 19, and then the constant term, 20. And so now that we've written all of our coefficients out, we're going to draw a line right here, and we're going to bring the first coefficient down to 5. So bringing the 5 down, then we're going to say 4, the number in the box, whatever that is, multiplied by 5 is going to give us 20. And then we're going to add. So negative 17 plus 20 is going to give us 3. So you write that there. And then we continue the process. We're going to take the number that's in the box, the 4, multiplied by the 3. That's going to give us 12. And then again, we're going to add. You always add in the step. So negative 18 plus 12 is going to give us negative 6. So then 4 times negative 6 is going to give us negative 24. So 19 plus a negative 24, it's the same thing as 19 minus 24, is going to give us negative 5. And then finally, 4 times negative 5 is going to give us negative 20. And so 20 added to a negative 20 is going to give us 0. So one thing to keep in mind is if you end up with a 0 as your last number and you've run out of columns, then you're not really going to have a remainder. I guess technically you could say the remainder is 0 that's left over. So that's the first thing to keep in mind. The second thing is we need to decode this. So going back and looking at the original problem, our highest power was a 4. And so since we divided by a linear term, our highest power is now going to be a 3. So you can think of it like x to the 4 over x would leave you with x to the 3. And so that's how we're going to kind of decode this answer. So this 5 number right here is going to be the coefficient of the x to the 3rd, because we already talked about that. It's going to be our power or our degree for this polynomial. We're going to add that to 3x squared. So we just do x3, x2, minus 6, x to the 1, minus 5x to the 0, so that's just the constant term, plus 0 over x minus 4. And so that's how you would set up the remainder term if it were anything besides 0. So if we ended up with a number there, say 5, it would be plus 5 over x minus 4. But since this is a 0, we don't really have to write it. So when you write your final answer, you can just say that it's 5x3 plus 3x squared minus 6x minus 5. And that's going to be your final answer. Now, if you wanted to check that in some kind of way, you could always check it using long division, or you could just go back and you could multiply out the 5x3 plus 3x2 minus 6x minus 5, your answer, by x minus 4. So if you wanted to double check yourself maybe on a test or something, you could multiply those two things together and just be sure that it gives you the original thing that we had before we divided, the 5x to the 4 minus 17x3 minus 18x2 plus 19x plus 20. So that's just a way that you can check yourself if you have extra time and say you're on a test. But otherwise, that's all you have to do.